Hello again, everyone. Deflect here, Firm but Fair Gaming. I want to bring out a new video as they have updated the war within Affix. So, if you saw the last one, there was a lot of criticism on the last one. It wasn't as bad as initially written. It just, I don't know, it was different, and I don't think it was going to be overly great, but very weird having to target specific mobs and stuff. But they have updated it again. They were listening. They said they want to change the affix system, so they don't want you to be playing against the affix. They don't want to have push weeks. They want it to have more of an all the time play. Whereas we'll use this week for an example in retail is fortified, volcanic, spiteful. Pretty easy week all around. Probably one of the best push weeks of the season. People will be playing keys a lot. They want to have that constant player base of people playing in keys rather than you coming in and doing incorporeal sanguine or incorporeal raging on fortified week where moms just hit like trucks, stuff like that, or bolstering or something along those lines. So they have said they're reducing the total number of mechanics affixes on a keystone for players progressing through the system from 2 to 1. Following affixes are being retired: sanguine, bolstering, raging, bursting. Some of them were a pain to deal with. Some of them when you couldn't kick the mob and you had to kick the mob or it does tremendous damage. Okay, it was kind of a pain. Sanguine, small dungeons always a pain in the ass. Outdoor dungeons it really is relevant, but indoor dungeons it's a pain in the ass. I've heard the feedback about applying the bonuses unevenly. To players feels exclusionary, regardless of the overall impact. It was actually turned out to be a lot less than what people first thought it was going to be, including myself. I thought it was going to be horrendous. Like on one week, you want to take, well, plus 30% to bleeds. You want to take a feral druid, and, then everyone else is screwed on that week type shit. They're getting rid of all those. They're all gone. Say goodbye. There's Cannonball. They're going into um, a new affix program. So, here we are aiming to eliminate push weeks by providing a constant challenge that focuses solely on the dungeon for players seeking to advance. They want to get rid of, like I said, a week like this week where everyone wants to play, versus a week like a couple weeks ago where nobody wanted to play. Which that's a cool idea. That works out. But I want to dive into what the new ones are. So Zal herself will manifest in dungeons, introducing a rotation of affixes under the banner Zal's Bargain. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing Zal right, but we'll just go with it. um, for our first test this week, we will have two Zal's Bargain affixes available. One affix is an event that players must deal with periodically, while the other affix is a passive effect on creatures throughout the dungeon. So they want some testing, want some feedback, which is great. Um, the bargain is ascendant. While in combat, Zal rains down orbs of cosmetic energy that attempt to empower nearby enemies, increasing their haste and movement speed. If a player disrupts these orbs, they claim this for the effect for themselves. Curious how you disrupt them. I wonder if it's just a kick or do you have to jump under it? Like, do you have to hit the orb yourself? I don't know. Gonna test it out. Seems cool. Kind of cool idea. Frenzied. Non-boss enemies become frenzied at 30% health remaining, increasing their haste by 40%. Kind of like a raging effect. But they increase their damage taken by 20%. So they get a bonus, you get a bonus. Cool. Starting at Keystone level 7, a new affix, Challenger's Peril, directly affects the dungeon timer. This affix emphasizes precise play, strategic execution, placing greater risk on player decision. Dying subtracts 15 seconds from the remaining timer rather than 5 seconds. That's 3 times as much. Well, there was keys out there. Like, people were timing keys this season with like 24 deaths. So, that'd be interesting if they're trying to get rid of that one shot mechanic. Because if they are, that's cool. That's great. If they aren't, this could be interesting. I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing. It just could be interesting. You could write off the dungeon. Like, you had 20 deaths. That's a long time off the dungeon timer. That's like 5 minutes off the timer. So it would take away pretty quick. Rather than if you had 20 deaths here, you're still under a minute. So well, I guess you're just over. You're a minute and a half. So, That works. Starting at Keystone level 12, a new affix replaces bargain. This level, Zal revokes her bargains, empowering dungeon creatures with 20% increase in health and damage. So that's Keystone level 12. How's bargain affix? So I think. Yeah, I think this is just what it's called. It's called Zal's Guile. So this replaces the bargain. It's called now Guile. And yeah, it's 20 revoking her bargains and increasing 20%. Okay. Okay. So my question with this is, does it stack with fortified and tyrannical? Or is it baseline additional? Should be interesting. See the examples they have here. Here's an example of what a keystone looks like under the new model. +2 through +11 have the following affixes. +2 has the bargain affix, which will appear on a weekly rotation. +4 is fortified tyrannical, alternating on a weekly rotation. +7 is a challenger, so that's that 15-second death timer. +10 is turn. I think this is a typo. +10 is the exact same thing as up here, which I'm assuming is just a typo because it's tyrannical or fortified. +12. From a keystone level +12 and up, keystones will have the following affix. You will always have fortified. So maybe this isn't a. Maybe this. What? Maybe this isn't a typo. Maybe you. At +10, you get both tyrannical and fortified. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So bosses will be 20% harder, do 30% more damage, and mobs will be 20% harder and do 30% more damage. Okay. 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 Interesting. So you are just playing the dungeon. They're just making it harder for some reason. If you're just gonna do that at plus, and I guess you'd have to get to a 10 where you play both of them. Interesting. It's an interesting concept. I'm gonna have to test this out. You're gonna have the Challenger's Peril, Fortified Tyrannical, and Guile replaces the weekly bargain affix. So I now wonder if you have Fortified Tyrannical and then Guile. So on +12s, you will be dealing with. So let's just say something is 100 health for easy numbers. It'll be 100%. You're going to add 20% for a fortified week. Plus, you add another 20% for the guile. Now, if that's multiplicative on the 20%, you're going to 144% or 144 health on that pack. It's on a regular week. Plus, then the guile betrays players, revoking their bargains and increasing the health and damage of enemies. So this doesn't say dungeon creatures. This doesn't say anything. This says enemies. So it doesn't even say non-boss enemies. So that means the bosses will become double cracked with essentially everything's getting raging or bolstering on both bosses and mobs, if I'm understanding that correctly. So that's going to be interesting. I wonder if the guile is going to be tuned a bit different because, some of those tyrannical bosses are nuts and they hit like a truck regardless. So if you're adding an extra 20% damage on top of the tyrannical damage, tanks are just going to get obliterated. Maybe they'll tune the bosses to. I don't know. This is interesting. Very interesting. We'll see how this plays out. We'll do some testing in the beta. But yeah, that's the new affixes. If you have any questions, as always, leave a comment below. Like, share, subscribe, deflect, firm but fair gaming. We'll see you in the next video.